Aloha and mahalo for joining me. I'm Janet and welcome to the Called to Create podcast. I am here to help you ladies unlock your creative potential and use your God-given gifts and start a business. Because you were called to create and you have so much to share, and the world needs your creative gifts to be shared right now, ladies. Let's do this. All right, today I wanted to talk about comparison, and I was trying to think of like a title for it, but the only thing I could think of was the word comparison. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I've witnessed it so much in my own life and in the lives of other people that I know. And I find that comparison has been a real game stopper. It just stops you because you're so busy focusing on, what other people have. Or, for example, I want to use the analogy or the comparison, of people talk about apples and oranges, and I just so happen to have an apple and an orange. And I want to use this as a way of showing you how comparison is kind of like it doesn't work, and it's kind of doesn't make any sense, but we still do it. And I say we because I find myself every once in a while still comparing myself to another person. Okay, here we go. Now we have an apple and we have an orange, and this is like you, if you're an apple, you're comparing yourself to another orange when it's completely different. And the only thing that you have in common, if you're an apple, that you have in common with an orange is that you're fruit. So if you were to relate that to us here as humans, the only thing that we have in common with another person, so if you're a woman, the only thing you have in common with another woman is that you're female. And like with fruit, the only thing that they have in common is that they're fruit. The apple and the orange, that's the only thing that they have in common. Or maybe like the other thing they have in common is that they're edible, if it's not rotten, right? So I just want to use this to illustrate how it's almost like ridiculous that we as humans compare ourselves to other people. And I'm talking about it because I've done it, and I still find myself every once in a while thinking like, oh, I don't know, look how, like, if I'm thinking about business, I can have moments where I'm like, if I see somebody online, and social media is a really deep dark place that you can go for comparison, that will just knock you off your tracks, because we all post pretty pictures and pretty videos and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't show anything about what's behind the scenes, what goes on in real life. When someone is taking a video, you don't see all the struggles and you don't see the mess and all of that. So if I'm thinking about other successful business women, I have moments where I'm thinking, oh no, she's smarter than I am. That's why she's so far ahead. And that is what can take me into a negative space, thinking, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to do this, right? And that's what I've noticed in so many other people, not just women, but a lot of men do this too. It's interesting how if you're not aware that you're comparing yourself, it can just knock you off your tracks, and it can just get you to give up on your dreams or give up on anything that you're trying to do. Or sometimes when you're comparing yourself, you don't even take the effort to do anything because you give up before you even start. You might say things to yourself like, oh yeah, no sense I try, because there's so many other people out there doing what I want to do, or crazy things like that. Okay, so be aware of what you're thinking, because you are the apple and you cannot compare yourself to an orange. And there's no way, like, I talk a lot about where identical twins are not exactly alike. They don't even look alike, they don't talk alike, they don't sound alike, even though their voices sound similar. And I know because I've had students that were twins, and one set were teenage girls and the other set was young boys. And it's interesting because at first you can't really tell them apart if they kind of really look alike. But then once you start to study both of them, you start to realize that there's little things about them that are very different. So that's what I want you to focus on, is yourself. Focus on the gifts and talents that you have so that you can make the best of your life, and you can use the gifts to bless your own life and the lives of other people. But don't compare yourself to other people, because there's no way that someone else has your gifts and your talents and your skills, and there never will be. We are all created individually for a reason. We're unique, and remember that. Like, I believe in God, and so I believe that God created us all differently on purpose. We all have our own reason why we're here on earth, and why we're here, and all that kind of stuff. If you're one of those that believes in God, remember that you were created for a purpose and a reason. And don't compare yourself. Okay, you're like comparing apples to oranges when you're comparing yourself to someone else, and it's just gonna give you stress and create frustration in your life. And I can say that because I know that it creates frustration, okay, when I've done that before. So every time I'm aware of something like that, or if I'm starting to look at somebody else and say, oh, okay, well, she's much more talented than I am, I catch myself immediately and just try to change my thoughts and remember the gifts and talents that I have, and that I can use them to better my life. I have them for a reason. So keep that in mind every time you get to that place of comparison. And it's funny because when you get to that place of comparing yourself, it's because you're not focused on the gifts and talents that you have and who you are as a person. When you stop focusing on the beautiful person that you are, that's when you get yourself in trouble, by looking at other people and looking at what you see, but you don't see what their lives are like in person when nobody's around, or when they're not in public, right? Everyone has trials and challenges in life, and that's part of our existence. We have to have them so that we can learn and grow. So just keep that in mind. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's not worth it. And if you're going to focus the rest of your life on comparing yourself, there's no way you're going to be able to fulfill your own dreams, because you're so focused on everyone else out there. So take a moment, just recognize if you have compared yourself, and if you're doing it now, just let it go and start to focus on who you are and who you want to become, and just focus on things like that. Because when you can just use your gifts and find something that gets you excited to wake up every morning, you become a better person, and you actually become happier, and the people around you will notice and they will become happier, because if you're in a happy mood or a happy state, then you're more likely to treat other people, especially in your family, a lot better. And if you're not happy, then that tends to be, what is that word? It tends to radiate out of you, right? Your unhappiness. And just like happiness will radiate out as well. So remember that. I just wanted to share those things with you because it's so easy to just get into that headspace of comparing yourself. But there's no way you can compare yourself to anyone else, because you are unique. There's no one else like you. Okay, I have to keep saying that and drive that point home. So just focus on what gifts you have and how special you are. And if you don't feel special, I recommend you let me know. You send me a direct message. I want to talk with you, because you are special and you have worth and value, and I want you to know that. All right, you can do this. Do this for yourself. It'll help you live a better life and feel better about yourself. You know, we want to feel good about ourselves, right? And comparing yourself is not going to help you feel good about yourself. Do good in the world by being the person you want to be, okay? Not being a person that you're trying to compare yourself to. And please share this podcast with anyone who you know would get great value out of listening to it. Or if you know anyone that wants to start a creative business, please send this podcast their way. I would really appreciate that. And I want to invite you to come over and join my Call to Create podcast community in Facebook. And that's where you can connect with other listeners of the show and I can answer your questions. You can, it's going to be a place for you where you can learn and grow and work together with other wonderful women. And I really want you to be there. Okay, I'm looking forward to meeting you. So go over to bit.ly/call to create podcast. I'm so looking forward to it. And I want to ask you a favor. If you can please take a minute to rate and review this podcast. And if you're listening to this podcast in the Apple Podcast app, you can rate and review this show right there at the bottom. So as soon as you open my show, you can just scroll down all the way to the bottom and you can rate and review it right there, because reviews are so important and they tell potential listeners and Apple that this show is worth listening to. And I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And have a great day, ladies. Take care of yourself. Aloha.